There are several things I'm proud of. You know, if you win something, you're proud of that. You're proud of every book. The thing I'm proudest of is an article that did not get published. I was called by the editor of Parade magazine. At that time, Parade, went to 30 million readers. And they asked me, what would you like to write about? Parade, I loved writing for Parade. The guy who founded it, Walter Anderson, who gave me a break early on, he was a kind guy. Um, he was a smart guy. He would take chances on you. And and he was a former Marine and had particular attitudes toward the United States strength. In any event, the editor asked me, what would you like to write? And I was violently opposed to the Iraq War. I thought it was a mistake. I thought it was a fraud from the first. And I said, I'd like to go to a community in the United States and write about all the ways this war is damaging that community, but nobody thinks about those ways. And the editor said, well, how would you do that? I said, well, I'd call Howard Dean's office. He was running the Democratic Party at the time. And I'd ask them if they had a congressman who would be interested in having such a piece done in their district. And then I'd go to the district and hear the stories and see whether or not there truly was an effect between the war and whatever was going on in that place. I never thought Parade would go for it. I thought Parade was more conservative than that. I was surprised when the editor said, great, do it. Called Howard Dean's office, hooked me up with a couple of Congress people. I chose the town of Mankato, Minnesota, and went there and spent a week there. And boy, did I confirm the theory. The police told me that they'd been told that they'd lost funding for the youth programs because of the war. The highway department had gone to Washington and met with senators and been told that they lost funding for a key stretch of highway, an area where many people had died in accidents because of the war. The social services people, the mayor's office, everybody not only directly linked it in their own mind to the war, but they had been told this by politicians or representatives of the federal government. I never expected Parade to take the piece. Every day I figured the thing would backfire. I handed in the piece. They loved the piece. The editor says, I love it. The fact checker says, I love this piece. The editor calls me and says, we're making this the cover story. It's going to run in 3 weeks. Would you mind coming in and choosing the cover? I mean, come on, Ray. Choosing the cover? I went into Parade. They show me 4 or 5 pictures. I picked the cover story. I picked the photo, and it was a photo of a family who had lost a member on that stretch of highway where the funding had not gone through, and the highway department had been told directly it was because of the war. The piece was now slated, and it was going to run in a week. I'm superstitious, Ray. I don't believe you tell people about good things. If you tell people something good is going to happen, it doesn't happen. I really held it in all of this time. I hadn't told anyone that this piece was going to run. And I was visiting my dad in Florida, actually, up in Boca, not so far from you. And the editor of Parade called, my editor, and she said, it's all done, it's finished, it's at the printer, it's coming off the presses right now. I said, right now, it's coming off the machines, like there are really samples of the magazine? Yeah, it's going out this weekend, millions of copies, 20, 30 million copies, Ray. You want to talk about what makes you proud to be able to affect people like that? If a piece like that would run, you go on television, you get to say what you think, you reach the whole country, you show them things. It was real journalism. It was real journalism. And boy, was I excited about that piece. And I told my dad it was going to run. Dad, I hung up the phone. I have the cover story of Parade magazine next week. Ray, it took 30 seconds. That's all it took. The phone rings again. It's the same editor. She doesn't sound happy anymore. She sounds shocked. This has never, she told me, ever happened in the history of Parade. Walter saw the piece. He killed it. We're pulling it. We're going to have a different cover story. So I loved Walter. He sent me to Somalia. Those people sent me on drug interdiction cruises. They sent me to France to cover Interpol. But in this instance, they pulled the piece. So you asked me what I'm proudest of. I'm proud that I wrote that piece, that I saw that story, that I had that opportunity. And I still regret that the piece never ran.